Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm with the Living Archives Project, where we are collecting stories of how COVID-19 impacted various minority communities around Charlotte-Mecklenburg County. Today is September 29th, 2022, and there are 247 cases of COVID-19 in Charlotte-Mecklenburg County this week, which is an 11% decrease over the last 2 weeks. Therefore, for the comfort of each subject, we are not wearing masks today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Sheila. Today is September 29th, and I'm looking forward to sharing my story with you.
Sheila, thank you so much for for sharing your story and putting time aside for us to come today. We really appreciate it. Can you tell us a little bit, how long have you lived in Charlotte?
I am actually a Charlotte native.
Wow.
I know that's kind of hard to believe, but
Yes.
with so many people coming and going, but I've been here. I recently just moved to a different part of North Carolina. I was still out of Charlotte, but still close. And but I'm originally from here, so all my life.
Wow, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience being a Charlotte native? Because like you said, it is pretty rare to meet a Charlotte native, and I bet you've been through lots of transitions.
I love it. I can't imagine. Well, I can't imagine living somewhere else, but I actually love North Carolina. I love the seasons. I love the weather. And yes, transition, gentrification, a lot of people that I know for relocation, that I see folks that I've grew up with several times, all the time. And it's hard to believe that a lot of them are, not here. And when I was growing up, I was like, oh, you get to a certain age and you always think 30s old, 40s old.
Yeah.
Because that's what we thought our parents. And now that we're that age,
true.
You say, God, I find myself now running into folks that I sometimes remember from high school, junior high, and sometimes I don't. But they know me, So it's different. And my children are now grown. Case in point, we were at a event last week where the library we were volunteering with the library, giving out the laptops. And I saw a lot of folks who I grew up with, and my daughter was like, everybody in Charlotte. And I was like, when you are from Charlotte, that's what happens.
Yeah. Did you grow up in a specific side of Charlotte or kind of all over?
No, on Pacific side. We what they call now the East Side.
Okay.
And now when I go through there, it's like, oh my God, that all used to be the old Kmart? This used to be the old Walmart? But and it's funny because people that move here, they're more street or road, highway. And I am still to the fact that give me the landmark.
Yeah.
If they tell me the landmark, I can tell where I'm going and what I am. And like my kids, they need that GPS. And I can just say, oh, and my daughter be like, well, how do we get home? Because I know where I'm going, So that it's funny. It's funny to see it.
The way our brains are wired.
Yeah. And everybody used to say, I still say Independence Boulevard. Everybody say 74 now, And when someone asks me for directions or they tell me 74, I say, well, what's the address? Now, you might have to use your GPS because everything that I remember is gone. It's gone there. Yeah. So it's different how they a lot of Northerners say the road. They actually have to have the road, the street, and that type of thing. And us Southerners, our natives, we can say, oh, that's where the Walmart is at, So your direction's a little different.
I am not a Charlotte native, and I'm very new, and so I'm definitely. I still call it Independence as well, but I'm learning.
Yeah. So it's different. It's different.
That's awesome. How many kids do you have?
I only have two grown, and as people say they're gone. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are they in college?
No.
Or are they much grown?
not much,
Okay.
yeah. But they have all graduated, and
Wow.
my son lives in Alexandria.
Okay.
And he's a psychiatrist for the courts in Washington.
Wow.
The District of Washington, rather.
Yeah.
And my daughter is she's just relocated from California, from San Diego to Spain. Her husband's in the military. And
oh my goodness.
so they are now living in Spain.
In Spain. Do you have any plans to go visit?
Because of COVID, they left in 2020, okay. Right at the end of 2019.
Yeah.
And so, of course, every time I got ready to go, it was COVID, the restrictions were different and that type of thing. So they've been there a year and a half now. So yeah, I have plans to go, but
you haven't been able to. I have not. I wonder, what was, did you talk to your daughter a little bit about that? How did COVID impact Spain and her perspective?
In her perspective, they were actually quarantined coming from the States. They were quarantined for 90 days, and they lived in a hotel. Wow. It was more, she said it was a hotel, but it was more like a residence inn for us. Mm-hmm. And they were only allowed to go to certain places and things of that nature. So after the quarantine, mm-hmm. They had to all be tested again. And so she said that was kind of rough for her. Yeah. Luckily, her job, she was still working from remotely, so she could do that. But then when the time difference, that was hard for her. And so trying to get adjusted during COVID time was really hard for her. And I think it was even harder because she was not able to adjust to friends and things of that nature at that time. Mm-hmm. So we spent a lot of time talking the difference and those things. But when they were able to get out, mm-hmm. they got out. Okay. So, yeah. So she's enjoyed it since.
That's awesome. And she's kind of getting, I bet now with some of the restrictions lifted, hopefully she gets to explore.
Yeah.
I've never been to Spain, but I've heard it's quite lovely.
Yes. And yeah, so some of the things that she's seen, I'm waiting her to show me.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And hopefully one day you're going to have the opportunity to go too. Yeah. That would be great. So I know before we started the interview, you had the opportunity to do a little activity called the hand map.
Correct.
Is there anything that stood out to you while you did or after the hand map? Or is there anything you want to share specifically from your...
One thing that stood out was you asked a question about how I felt COVID impact, mm-hmm. or what were some of the differences. Mm-hmm. And as I indicated on my sheet, I thought that I'm sure everybody was probably traumatized. Everybody, it was something new for everybody, the scare, the fear. But you really knew who your support system was during that time. Mm-hmm. And some people may say, well, they didn't want to spend time with their family. Maybe it was good. Yeah. And then some people who spent time with their family, it may not have been as good, but for me, it just brought out a whole different side to know. I'm married, but do I really like this person? Do I really like me? Because I had to spend time with me as well. Yeah. It also gave me the opportunity to look at different things or what I may want to do. I've been a social worker for over 30 years, but how did I really impact people? Was I doing too much for people? Were I enabling them? What did I really get out of it? What satisfaction did I get? Where was my support? I always tell people we are the strong. Sometimes need somebody to lean on also. Yeah. People look for you to be the one. In my immediate family, I'm the one that they send paperwork to. come to. I'm the first one that went to college in my family, first generation. And people still look at you that. And when you're a social worker, they look for you for resources. But when you are impacted, where do you go?
Yeah.
I found that some things, they had all this stuff that was supposed to be set up for folks that was really impacted, didn't help me. Either over income, under income. You didn't live in this particular zip code. You didn't live in this particular area. That didn't help me.
Yeah.
And so I found out where was that support system. And for me to be a social worker and not have the resources for myself that I may have needed at the time, how do the people that I was helping, what did they feel? Where were they going? Yeah. And I know everybody had their own struggles, and I'm sure that they looked at some things different. But I re-examined what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. I took some more classes for me for certification to see if that's what I wanted to do. I became a doula.
Wow.
That was very interesting. I became one because I was dealing with a lot of people who lost their babies during that time, and the trauma that they suffered. And there were a lot of African American and Hispanic, and I needed to know what was the difference. How was the health field helping us? What were they doing? Someone in my family close to me were also impacted with the loss of their baby during COVID. And I wanted to know what was the disparities like, what happened. So I dug a little deeper for me and wanted to know that, and became a doula so that I can access that and have that. I also took up yoga for therapeutic reasons. I always enjoyed yoga, but then we always thought, was yoga really for African Americans? Did we really do that? And once I got into it, there's a whole different world of what just me being social, in the social world and finding resources. It really impacted me, and when I had COVID, I felt alone. I felt isolated. I felt, my husband was there and people was, but they didn't feel what I felt. They didn't feel the emotions. Just like when I saw my clients come in, I had empathy for them, but I didn't really know that impact. Then I saw friends who I went to high school with. It seemed like I was going to someone's funeral every other week. And then when you could not attend, they were either you could do live stream, or it was, less than 50 people, that type of thing. So there was no closure to some of that. And I felt that. Yeah. And I felt, what if that could have been me? Where would I, or who I touched during that time? Yeah. So I re-examined and refocused for me. Yeah. And so that's some of the reasons why.
That's powerful.
So
out of that, what did you learn for yourself?
I learned that some things about me that I didn't like, and I needed to refocus. Or that it was too self-indulging for me. And I wanted a change. Yeah. And I wanted to have what everybody else have, the whatever you consider the American dream. And, I'm over 50 and I want to be just as vibrant, just as happy, just, I want to live the rest of that time knowing more of the self-care for me. So I learned no was a sentence, was a one word. A lot of people that I tell no to now, they don't know how to take that. Yeah. Because they're so used to me going that extra mile. Yeah. But that extra mile wore me out. Yeah. And I didn't realize that. And so when I had COVID for those days, it was very hurtful for me to know that those same people that I went these extra miles were not there. And I'm not saying they had to be there every day, but I'm saying a phone call would have sufficed. Yeah. And I'm not telling them they had to go find some resources. No one, they didn't need to drop off. I mean, even for the fact of my church family that I thought, I'm on different missionaries when we go out and we drop food and, seniors and these type of things. Yeah. But where was these people at? Mm-hmm. And I know everybody was scared and, things were running rampant and, stuff was shut down, but the world still evolved. Mm-hmm. It still had to go on. People still had to show up. Mm-hmm. I had clients that was in trouble, but they did not. When I sent them the emails, I'm out of the office due to COVID reasons and, this type of thing, there was no empathy for that, Yeah. Well, I needed to talk to you and you was not available. Yeah. Who was there that I needed to talk to? Yeah. That. So that's why I said I refocused on that. Yeah. And not to say that it was more hardening for me to know that same grace that I've given to everybody was not given to me. Mm.
Wow, that's a huge realization.
Yes.
Huge. And as a social worker myself, we tend to have personalities that constantly give and give and give. And it is so important to learn when to say no. Mm-hmm. Boundaries. I mean, how many times have we learned about boundaries, but applying them to our life is still a challenge. Yes. It's crazy how much. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's incredible. That's a huge lesson to learn and reflect upon during that time frame.
It was, and it was also a time for me to say that I could be honest. Mm-hmm. I could be honest with myself, others, and tell them exactly my thought. Yeah. And I now don't find myself apologizing for that. Yeah. Where before I struggled with it, telling someone, really, I don't feel like this, And I just said, I thought it was wearing me down, and to come out of it, to have a refocus for life, that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you're in this whole new refocusing and really understanding self-care. So what is self-care? I know you talked a little bit about yoga. What are some other practical self-care practices that you've implemented?
I travel now and more, rather than saying, oh, let's plan this and plan that. Now if I feel like it financially, emotionally, or even mentally, I'm going. Yeah. I always have a dog, and I find myself more. I brought another one because it's just sometimes that's an unconditional love, and that's a thing that continues to grow. So with that, spiritually and emotionally, I felt better. Mm-hmm. I work out every day. I love that because it's a way for me to relieve a lot of tension and stress during the day, or make me feel better that I've done something for me. Yeah. So I'm doing that, and just saying no. Yeah. And that was a hard thing. Yeah. That was a hard thing. But I've learned that if I didn't say no, that it was going to put more stress and anxiety on me, and I didn't need that anymore. Yeah.
I can imagine.
So those are my self-care rules. Yeah. If I feel like doing it, I do it. If I don't, then I know that I can say no. Yeah. And guess what? Everybody figured it out. Mm-hmm. You know, regardless if I helped them, if I gave them the right tools or moved on or whatever. But they figured it out. Yeah. And I was okay with it. Where normally I would be feeling like I needed to recheck on somebody or, you know, do it for them. But now I don't feel like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying COVID made me any harder or less aware. It just made me realize that the world is going to go on whether you're here or not. Mm-hmm. And you need to take time for you. And that's what I did.
That is the truth. The world is going on. Mm-hmm. I mean, clearly the pandemic was a huge thing that went on, and it was out of our control. Mm-hmm. Completely out of our control. And we had to learn a lot of different lessons through that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As a social worker and a counselor, during the COVID time and even coming out of it now, we're not necessarily, COVID's not extinct, right? It still impacts us daily. Mm-hmm. But restrictions have been lifted, and there's a lot more support towards, you know, containing that. How have you found with connecting with clients? Like, how has COVID impacted you as a counselor in your profession?
That's a good question, because a lot it changed a lot for some, and some it didn't affect at all. Okay. So I looked at it as more of self-awareness. Okay. And being aware of where they are right now, as opposed to where they came from and where they want to go. Yeah. But how are you dealing with what's happening right now? Mm. And let's focus on right now. Yeah. You know, because tomorrow's not promised. Yeah. And we can't do anything about yesterday. So just working on just working on that right now. Let's focus where you are right now. Yeah. And that helps me to know where you are now. Yeah. And what we can look forward to. Mm-hmm. You know. And I guess just I look at that sign and say, just believe in yourself all the time, because I think we have that choice. Mm-hmm. And we have options, consequences. And you have to believe in yourself that you're going to do the right thing. And you're going to go farther. We're going to make it better, make it stronger for us. Yeah. Whatever that looks like for you. Mm-hmm. You know, for me, it's more focusing on me and knowing that what I want now can impact what I want later.
Yeah, definitely. On a logistical side, just a question. Did you have to go to more telehealth, like virtual therapy? And did you find a difference for yourself in your own practice? Did clients respond better to virtual therapy, or was it more of a hindrance? Or
both. Both. It was both. At the beginning, it was, everything was going really virtual. Yeah. And that was hard for some. It was hard for me because I generally like to watch them with body language and eye contact and things that they may not say or feel. And vice versa. Yeah. A lot of them tell me that they think I'm judging if I look a certain way, if I don't say something. And I have to keep reminding them, there's no judgment. This is your safe space. So don't think about what I feel. Tell me how you feel about this. How is it for you? Because the therapy doesn't, it doesn't start here with the hour that you spend with me. Yeah. It starts when you go out the door. Yeah. And I had to learn that for myself also. Yeah. And so to know that when I left out of here, I was still going to be okay. And so when you're looking at someone virtually, after 30 minutes, you tired.
Yeah.
you and especially on camera, you want to get up, then you start worrying about what you look like, and those type of things. So even working with kids that was awful. That was difficult.
I can't imagine.
I mean, I could not hold their attention more than 10 minutes, and then they were all over the place. And especially if they were not they were only on a phone, it was just crazy because the phone would be all up here, down here, and you're constantly trying to get their attention.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah.
For adults, some wanted to talk more than the Zoom time allowed, so where it was difficult.
Yeah.
It was difficult. So when the world kind of opened back up, we still was cautious about coming into the office and kind of scheduled it where everybody's not here at the same time. And so we still adhere to the COVID guidelines now. But I tell folks it's how you feel comfortable. If you want to wear a mask, you can. If you don't, we still gonna distance, and that type of thing. And I still wipe down. I've always, sanitized and wiped, and so that part of the COVID part didn't bother me as much because it was a continuous thing. So when you go to virtual, you're not really doing it. But I still found myself spraying, even though I'm on camera.
In the air.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so this won't jump off on me again, that type of thing. So you still kind of still be impactful.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So now does your practice do mostly in person, or do you have a combination?
They some folks, some of my clients love virtual.
Okay.
And they thought it was more convenient for them.
Okay.
And sometimes for me it has been.
Yeah.
Especially like the days that we alternate. I try to, if I'm 2 days a week I'm in the office, so I will schedule folks in the office. And the other 3 days I am not. And so I do all virtual.
Yeah, that's nice.
And for new clients, I do virtual, just to see if it's where they want to be, and a good fit and that type of thing. So that works out way better now.
Yeah. And so I'm so curious to get your opinion and thoughts on this. Is when you're working with kids, I always found when I worked with kids, talk therapy was not effective at all. And so play therapy, art therapy were tools that were way more effective with younger children. How was that
adolescents.
for you? And what?
And adolescents.
Yeah.
The virtually, as I said, it was hard. So I can imagine being an educator and working, doing school with that. Because like I said earlier, 10 minutes and they lose it, I would try to send like worksheets and things to the parent, but a lot of them didn't have printers. So I, as you said, to get them to talk, get them to open up, and especially if that's their first time, they don't trust you, especially doing virtual. So having to, you just have to do a rethink how to engage them virtually. But now most of them, I still have them come to the office. And they felt more, it was their safe space here too. Yeah. Because when they're at home, parents home, a lot of things they may want to say, they may want to talk about. They didn't feel comfortable doing it. So a lot of times, 30 minutes can seem like it's 3 hours, because nothing's happening. They're not saying anything, or you feel like, I felt like I was pulling teeth trying to keep a conversation. So yeah, talk therapy on Zoom was not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am glad we can go back to that.
Yeah.
Now for adolescent teenagers, it didn't matter because that's all they did was on their phone or computer anyway. They were talkative, very. They could go outside, unsupervised. But when you have someone that's 12 and under, they're not going to do that.
No.
And so that was the hard part.
Yeah, reaching that. That's so interesting with COVID and a lot of people struggling with the isolation part, which is understandable. Have you found, in your experience, was there more people seeking therapy services?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so yes. Our office could not keep up with it. We have actually 8 clinicians here, and we were definitely overloaded ourselves. Yeah. And that's why I made the comment, well, who do you talk to? Exactly. We would talk to amongst each other, but then you work. So do you really feel safe telling them your safe secrets? So we looked outside and a lot of folks were full. A lot of therapists were already full. They were not taking new clients. We also work with the Mental Health Alliance, who we got a lot of referrals from. And people, it is still amazing to me that they're still seeking help. I also found a lot of African Americans and males were seeking services, which, 3 years ago, no. And what's even more ironic, a lot of African Americans, we don't really believe that, we needed the mental health piece. Yeah. And now since COVID, it's created a whole different alliance for us. Crazy. I have more people reach out on Psychology Today that asks for an African American male or female counselor. Wow. Which is, I don't know if it's hard or we just got to the point where we say we need help also. And I hear that a lot from folks. And, even before now, as I said, they would not see that. They'll say, well, we don't need to talk to nobody. Yeah. We'll pray about it. Yeah. We'll go to our pastor about it. We may hear about it in the street. Yeah. Yeah. Who do you confide in? Yeah. And that was the thing. We just didn't do it. Yeah. And if you did, you had the stigma on you. And who wants to know that? So you weren't going to tell anybody. Even with EAP clients, we get a lot of those. And because people return back to work and going back into the building, they were still afraid of COVID, or they still thought that the job did not value them. And that was an issue for a lot of folks. Yeah. And so, so to answer your question, yes. I think we've been more busy since the pandemic. More folks have reached out. And they may not have even been affected really by COVID, but mentally, they had been. Yeah. Grief. One way or another. Exactly. Yeah. Grief, loss of employment, children, the disconnect they felt with their partners. You're right, they've suffered. Yeah. Why do you think in the African American community there's been more acceptance towards, receiving therapy or just support in daily life, or do you think that's still kind of growing? Honestly, I think it's still growing. Because I know a lot of folks in my own personal family. Yeah. They don't believe in this work. Yeah. They believe in the prayer, church, relying on each other. What goes on in this family stays in this family. We can help each other, or there's nothing wrong with them. They'll be okay.
Yeah.
You know, they just going through something right now.
Yeah.
But they've been going through something all their life. You know, what's going to change?
Yes. But what's going to change?
And that's so, you know, I look at it as that's why we change.
Yeah.
And that's why you seek out. That's why you become vulnerable and say, I need help. That's still hard for a lot of people. A lot of males that I deal with, they don't want to look at their past and why they are the way they are, or what made them need this help now. Mm-hmm. I do groups, and male groups, teenagers, or that's another thing that people of color don't look at. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for a male to really be vulnerable, mm-hmm. It's hard for them. Mm-hmm. And it takes them a while to even open up or say that they're going to be in change. And especially if they're over 40. Yeah. You know, and they get stuck. So, yeah.
Totally. I mean, I think that is a huge struggle with men in general, in my experience as well. It's mm-hmm. just, you know, even in this, in story connecting and collecting, mm-hmm. it's hard to get males to open up. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty incredible, though, that you've had an increase in men opening up and really seeking services. Mm-hmm. That's
we had a number of them. Because at one time I was like, oh, what is really going on? You know, and just to have them, but they were either impacted by COVID or felt, you know, the home life, the switch, or just they felt some changes that needed to be made within themselves. So I applaud them for even seeking help. Yeah. Whether this was the place or if they just felt that they needed some kind of connection to open up. Yeah. So that's the thing.
Well, you know, to respect your time and honor your time, mm-hmm. I'm just going to have one more question. Okay. Do you have any additional stories or experiences that you would like to share about your experience over the last 2-3 years?
There was, you know, one thing when I became a doula, I saw so many differences with all cultures that I am grateful to have had the opportunity to work with a lot of them, the experiences. Mm-hmm. As you collect stories and information, I'm also doing that in a different sense. Mm-hmm. And it makes me feel good when someone comes in and they've gone through that traumatic part of their life. But when they leave, they have the tools to move forward. Yeah. And for me personally, when I was impacted, I felt alone for me. But I also knew this was a growth opportunity for me. Mm-hmm. And I could either make the best of it, or I could let it make the best of me. And so I chose to refocus myself and to know this is where I wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today,
Thank
Sheila.
you.
I appreciate it. Perfect timing.
Timing, right?